Again, let me. Is this stable? Yeah, should be fine. Hopefully, I don't fall live. No? All right, so can we begin? So we're live right now. I'm gonna be passing this to you, Pauline, because I have my own here. So we're welcome to our CLA panel, and we're gonna be discussing all topics tech. So far, we just finished the presentation part, and we're gonna be running into more specific questions. Probably you were already boiling the questions through the presentations. We have also a live audience. Just please, those watching, just pop up questions in the chat and we'll be trying to answer them here live as well. But yeah, so I want to do again a short presentation. So I will start with you, Pauline, because I have you closer. So if you could just do a quick roundup of who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I'm Pauline. I'm a software engineer at Klarna at the moment. And yeah, I guess for now, we'll see with the question more about me later.
Cool, yeah. I'm Philip. I'm working as a tech consultant for EY or Ernst & Young now. And before I was a data scientist in an insurtech.
Thank you. And I am Gino. I am a junior software engineer, web developer at Proximity Technology, and I do mostly front end. Thank you.
All right. So I'm just going to be popping some questions now, and whoever has the mic can start, or if you feel like this question is not for you, just simply pass it along, and we'll see how that goes. So my first question, just to start very more broad and general, are we currently going through a tech bubble burst? You know, all these topics going on about, inflation and recession and hiring freeze and, firing happening in big tech companies. I don't know, Pauline, you are working at Klarna. How have you experienced this last months?
Well, I survived the layoff, so I feel pretty happy about that. I definitely felt that there's something happening in tech. I don't follow it so much, so I don't have much more knowledge, but I just know that there's a lot of layoffs happening and hopefully it's going to stop at some point. But also I feel like it's a normal thing happening in tech that there's always so much movement. And that's pretty much the end of my analysis of the situation. So maybe more more insights on this side of the panel.
I mean, Philip, you work in, I don't know, insurance?
In insurance, as a data scientist, I always make predictions, so I make a prediction again. Yeah, I think at the moment, of course, we have some layoffs, but then we will start again. So I think mid next year probably people will be hired again. And I mean, tech is something we always need, and developers, and we need it more and more. So there are every time more fields we need tech and engineers. So for the next few months, yeah, it's a bit of a hard situation, but I think next year somewhere becomes better again.
Cool.
Yes. From my point of view, actually, based on my experience in my company, I think we're still hiring a lot of people. So I'm surprised by hearing about the layoffs and stuff. And I just know that actually there's a big demand for developers that they even want to outsource, ask for other people that, I don't know, for our company, we have colleagues that work from Bulgaria or Macedonia or those countries. So I think actually there's a big demand still for developers, at least. I'm not sure how it would be for cyber security or insurance. So, yeah.
I was actually talking yesterday to a friend who is also a developer, and I think she got laid off a month ago. And now we met again yesterday, and I was like, hey, how's the job search going? And she was like, I already employed 2 weeks ago. So she just she spent 2 weeks unemployed.
Exactly.
And she's also a developer working with you know, React and you know, JavaScript. So it's like, you know, bounce really quickly. So we've heard all these things, but I don't know, maybe tech is something that is a bit unaffected or not so affected as other industries.
Yes.
Cool. All right. My next question is, so we've been talking here a lot about like breaking into tech and just starting anew. So what would you recommend if somebody has just finished studies, whatever that is? We just talked that a bootcamp is not the only way to enter into tech. Maybe they finish their 5 years, 6 years. Maybe they just, you know, muscle it and power through their own learning, self-learning. How do you think now in this point they are, like how they can start making that first step into getting the first job? What would be your tips and tricks?
Just because I was trying to think about how did I feel when I was done with my studies, and as I mentioned during my presentation, I really had no clue what to do in life. So my first approach was obviously find a job to pay for rent. I wanted to survive, but what I started to do is exploring, trying anything, going to a bunch of meetups, talking with my friends about the fact that I don't know what to do with my life. And usually your friends are always bringing up some things to try, or you know, some more avenues to explore. And by doing that, what I was waiting for is that one day I would find something that drives me, that I don't have to do it. I want to do it. And that's what happened. I talked with a friend, and he told me like, your way of thinking would fit for web development, for coding. And he contacted one of his friends, tried to figure out like how to start, and he gave me 2 websites. I think one was, my favorite one was Khan Academy, and it was teaching how to build animation with JavaScript. And I started it, and that's where I spent 6 hours a day building a little teddy bear, which I'm really proud of. And that's, you know, I found the spark, but I only found it because I looked everywhere and tried to go outside of my comfort zone. Because if what I'm currently doing is not giving this spark, I should stop exploring that and starting exploring other things.
That's all right, but I want to go deeper into that because you just mentioned like that part before you actually started your path. Right now, I want to focus more on the part where you're done with that path, with that learning path, and you're like about to leap into the job market. So what is that thing or 2 things that you say like, you know, you should be focusing on? You're done with the hard skills, with the hard part. What about, you know, the first job interview or trying to get the first job?
I lied to myself and told myself that I'm an amazing web developer and that I can handle everything. I really taught myself that to just bring some confidence so I can apply to some jobs on LinkedIn or whatever. I was not really regarding whatever, but just try to get some practice. Also, one thing that I did is more web development specific, but I bought a book. I think it's Cracking the Coding Interview. A massive book, like so heavy, but really, really interesting. And it brought me what I missed from the bootcamp, because the bootcamp is really practical and you build something. But in many job interviews, you're faced with some data structure problem, which you will never have in the job ever again. But for the interview, it's vital to know that. So I bought this book and made sure I knew as much as possible of the skills for job interviews. And then I left the book on the shelf with a lot of dust.
Cool. One question I have for following up this with Sino, yes. How many jobs did you apply for before landing your first job?
And before zero, actually.
What? You mean you
I
applied
didn't
and you got the
apply.
first
I
one?
didn't apply. I
Ah,
told you
yeah.
that I got approached by a recruiter
Okay.
because this was before finishing my bootcamp, and I was not actively looking for jobs actually. But what helped me, and I mentioned it before, was having it on my LinkedIn that I'm open to work, and about my skills, what I've learned, and yeah, basically having a CV prepared, and my CV was ready. I had it reviewed by experts. They had given me some good recommendations of how it would be more acceptable in a recruiter's point of view. So I would say, really, take that seriously. In Germany, if you're looking for a job, I think there's another platform called Sync. Am I pronouncing that right?
Sing.
Yeah. That also could help. And so having your CV, because when you get out of the boot camp, you have high confidence, and that's important, as Pauline said. So what is maybe missing, I would say, is like networking and finding the way to get in touch with recruiters. And yeah, basically, I didn't apply for jobs, but I had classmates that did, and I know how the process works, and I know that soft skills are important, as mentioned many times before. I know that the way you present yourself is important, and yeah, I think most importantly, you need to really show them how much you want to learn and how ready you are to learn more and take over responsibilities.
Great, thank you. So question for you, Philip. So you already talked in the presentation about your path, you know, and the curve and all the steps that took you where you are right now. So the question is, so what was across that curve the biggest challenge that you encountered, and how did you actually overcome it?
There were two big challenges. First one is finally doing the bachelor thesis after 6 years, and and not just studying for myself, but getting the certificate. I mean, we are in Germany, you have to go to have a certificate for everything. And then also finding the first job. And well, that's maybe a tip from my side. Don't get frustrated when you send, I don't know how many applications. And in the interview, be yourself. So when you, as a junior, sit in front of a senior and trying to tell them some bullshit, they probably find out. And then well, then you are out. So I was in some tech interviews and sitting on the other side of the table then and could ask more or less stupid questions, just to see also how people react. So for example, we had a coding challenge for a data science position, and the time to solve it was really short time. So we didn't expect to really solve this challenge. I mean, some people did, and I was really amazed by it. But it's also how they tackle the challenge. So before the challenge, we were like, okay, here's this task. If you have any questions, ask us. What would you do? You can use Google. Of course, you can't Google the complete task and go on Stack Overflow or something. But if you don't know how, I don't know, do a print command or whatever, you can Google it. So I mean, nobody expects that you know every command you can write or everything. I mean, I think one of the most frustrating days of my working life was when Stack Overflow was down for 2 hours and I did my lunch breaks then. I mean, that's how it works in the end. So be yourself, don't hesitate to ask questions even in the job interview. And yeah, I mean, that's at least how I tackle them, and I'm on the other side of the table, I don't know.
Cool, thank you so much. All right, my next question, whoever wants to answer it. So, what are your, maybe Philip, because you're in the middle, and actually, like, you are the only one of the three that has gone through like the normal, let's say the normal traditional education path. So the question is like, what is your assessment of traditional education nowadays, university, a master, a PhD, versus this non-traditional education, so like a boot camp, or actually like learning on your own?
Well, as mathematicians, we tend to be a bit arrogant. So I say, of course, you need to have a master's of mathematics to do data science or to understand it fully. To work on data science, I think a boot camp and how to use algorithms is also totally fine. And as I told before in my studies, it's mathematics is more theoretical. So I have to work together with some really software engineers who really know how to code and not like just my bit of code and Jupyter notebooks or whatever, and working together with them. So you need, so I think a boot camp could also be a really good idea. And also when I did this job interviews and I saw someone finish a boot camp for, I don't know, how long are they, 2 months, 1 month? I'm not sure, but when I see it on the CV, I think, okay, they know what they're doing, so I don't have to ask how to write a for loop or whatever. So I'm really going for the soft skills and maybe 1 or 2 questions just to be sure they're not just writing it on the CV, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. And this question is for the 3 of you. If you could share with us, what is your life hack? So what is something in your life that you have done or achieved or tweaked in a way to improve anything in your personal, professional life? I'll give you an example, for instance. Like, my life hack is to put my phone on flight mode when I'm like really want to focus. Like, this is a small tweak that allows me not to get any distraction.
Okay.
Could be anything, like.
Yes. I would say for me it is trying to be as consistent as possible with what I would want to do. For example, instead of one day, now I talk about coding 4 hours for one day and not doing it the next day and then doing it the week after. I try to code half an hour a day, but to do it every day. So I think this consistency and making a habit out of it really helped me be better at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would say spontaneously maybe trying out new things, because then you develop yourself and you learn. Maybe now I like data science and more and insurance, but then I'm working in another field and maybe I find out that I like it much more. And yeah, don't just stay where you are, but develop consistently.
So I had enough time to think about it. I think, don't know if it would be considered a life hack, but I think it's something that brought a lot of value to my life in general, is getting a mentor for whatever I want to achieve. I was lucky enough to find a mentor even before my boot camp who helped me throughout the boot camp and unstuck me for issues that were even bigger than the boot camp itself. So that was great. And I really felt the value of having a mentor recently, because when I arrived at Klarna, so I was in this graduate program, which you really supported, because they know you're a graduate, so you don't have much experience, so they always pair you with a buddy. So someone who's always there for you, that you can ask a question anytime, the person's gonna be there. And I had one buddy, an amazing one from the start. And I could always rely on him, and that built my confidence. I felt like I could achieve anything, because if something's wrong, I have my buddy, like I have my mentor, because slowly throughout the year became my mentor. And he left Klarna. And when he left, that's when I realized how much he was doing. And some days it was not much, it was just being there for me, even for the smallest problem, but he was there. I could always rely on him. And now it takes more digging to find the right person to come and help me. So it makes a massive difference in terms of, yeah, mental support, technical support, anything. It makes you feel stronger because you know you have someone next to you who's going to jump in and help you. So get a mentor, makes a difference.
Thanks. I have a couple more questions before we jump into the audience. And this one, yeah, like I'll just go with it. Like, what is your perception right now about the current woman participation in tech jobs? And where do you think we're going?
I see a lot of women at my office, which is really great. I didn't calculate the ratio of women versus men. Probably Kleina did. I know they're trying their best to do a 50-50, but that's the maximum I can say. I definitely felt, I don't know if it's just, let's say it's a feeling. I really feel like it gave me an advantage to find a job, to be a woman, because there's this aspect of wanting more women in tech. So obviously, if I was really bad at my job, I wouldn't be hired. But it might give me this little edge to be a woman because most company wants to have more women. But again, it's the feeling that I have in tech right now. But I don't want to take away the fact that women are also really good at their job, and recruiters are not just saying, as a woman, we need to get our quota up. You still need to be good at your job, but definitely felt more confident going there looking for a job.
Any other thoughts, opinions?
Yes, in the junior position, it's like you describe. Every company wants to have more women to have a equal gender ratio. But when you look at the higher positions, we are not there yet, and probably takes some years. Hopefully, it takes some years and not forever. But yeah, that's just one small comment to it.
I would second what Pauline and Philippe said. So there is this incentive to balance the percentage of women and men in tech companies, but like it or not, it's a male-dominated industry as for now. And as Philippe said, that yeah, maybe in junior positions you can see more women, but unfortunately when it comes to leadership, that's not the case. And it has been a big deal for myself. I remember that when I had the interview for the current job I have, one of the questions I asked was, how many female applicants did they have for the same position that I was being interviewed for? And that made them think, and they didn't even know that themselves. And that's something that the senior that I had back then, he interviewed me, he says that he always remembers that question because it actually challenged them, and the way they don't keep track of these things, and maybe they should start doing it. So yeah, I think for now it is male dominated, but there are going to be changes for sure because of policies that most companies are taking, and as Pauline said, it may be slightly advantageous for women who are seeking jobs at this point.
Cool. So I'm gonna ask one last question and then open it up. So we just are coming out, I believe now we can say we're coming out of like the pandemic slowly. This changed completely forever the way we work and learn. Where do you think we are going now forward into the future in the sense of what is this next big thing that we should all maybe try to learn, or so, like a big topic? You know, we're talking now about like crazy artificial intelligence software that basically is able to write code, is able to write poems, novels, is able to actually draw better than the best artists in the world. We're talking about that we're seeing every day companies, governments being hacked, also in the crypto, but also in the non-crypto market, like hacks of billions of euros, and we're also experiencing a boom on education of software and web technology. So what is this next big thing in the next, I don't know, 10 years? Philip, you are good at predicting, but I don't want to put you on the spot. But I don't know, is there a technology?
So technology-wise, you mean?
Yeah, is there a technology? Is there a language?
I mean, at the moment, we have a lot of the data stored in traditional databases or traditional clouds like AWS or Azure. And there are some new database structures which try to challenge it, like Snowflake, which is much faster and so on. But I don't have a clue how the technology behind works. I'm just using it. So, but it makes things much more faster again. It makes it easier to share data. And so I hope that we see much more data science projects in the future. And from a not tech point of view, because you were speaking of the pandemic before, what I really like about my tech job is that I can work remotely, and I could do it before the pandemic, but thanks to Corona, for example, I told my boss then last year, does it make any difference for you if I sit in my home in Berlin or somewhere else? And so I spent 2 months in Sicily and worked from there. And I think it's a really cool thing about tech, and also it's a good thing from Corona and what you can do in the future, this vacation stuff, and don't have the Berlin winter maybe, if you don't like it.
So I'm going to be fully biased on my answer, because it's not what I think is going to happen, but more what I hope it's going to happen. Even if my job can be done remote, I am not allowed to be as remote as I want. I cannot spend 2 months in Sicily, for example. And that is mainly because of laws and taxes and insurance also, that there's a restriction like this. So what I really hope is that we go towards a real full remote where we can choose where we work, and not being so restricted. I mean, maybe it's just talking about myself, but what I mean by that is like countries and lawmakers to actually make nomad working a concrete way of working, figuring out a way somehow to make it that you only pay taxes at one place and not in every country that you work in, or those kind of thing. I would really love to see that, because I think more and more people actually want that lifestyle or that possibility. And the other aspect, would love to see a world where cybersecurity is more taken into consideration as a real priority. Because in many cases, if you talk about cybersecurity, people will tell you, yes, it's important, we have to be safe. And in practice, this stays in the backlog. It's never been done, not because people don't want to, but because there's always another priority. And there's so many things that even on a daily basis that we're not even aware. Like, for example, you wouldn't leave your house without locking the door, right? And you keep the key for yourself. Right? You make sure it's really safe and no one takes it. Where online, it's just normal to give a really weak password that anybody can guess. It's like leaving the key on the door, but it's normal. Or even, you share your password with a friend, but using the same password for every single thing. So pretty much you gave the key to your home, your work, your neighbor's house, your grandmother's house, everything, like, fine. And it's really fine. And I would love to see that change, that people get more conscious about their security online, because we all know that the internet is a jungle, and it's not a safe place, but you can make it safe by having better practices, and that's a world that I want to see, a world where people are aware of their security online also.
Cool.
Yeah, you put it very well, both of you. I don't have much to add. I just, from development point of view, I think what future may hold is I see a lot of those websites popping up that are for generating code. Like anyone can write down in whatever language what they want and get code that they want. But I have tried those, and I would say that they are not accurate, not even close. And so for developers, I think there is nothing for us to worry about, at least for now. And even if those will be the future, we still need to tell them precisely what to do. And what I heard in We Are Developers conference from the CEO of GitHub was that in the next 5 years, we are going to have as much change in the tech world as like last 40 years. So yeah, I think definitely the industry is going to change a lot, and there is a lot more for all of us to learn. Yeah, that would be the future, basically.
Nice. All right, so your turn. I already asked the question, so do you have something, maybe something stuck from the presentations or from here? Yeah? Maybe. Yes.
Yeah, I have the question for Pauline. You mentioned one of your tips would be to find a mentor, and that you saw like great value in that. Do you have any tips or suggestions how to find a mentor that also that fits you, like both? Because I've experienced myself that I find it quite difficult to find someone that has some kind of expertise in the field that you are looking for, and at the same time also you relate to on a personal level to some extent.
So that's a really good question. I can only partially answer because I got really lucky. This friend who introduced me to coding also had a friend of his who was mentoring high school students. So he already knew how to mentor. It was the first time he was mentoring someone doing a boot camp, so that's how I got my first mentor. But it also came down to me opening myself to my friends about what I want to do, and that's how I found this mentor. If I just kept everything inside and not sharing this with my friends, then it would not happen. So share with your friends first, because that's where you're going to be the most comfortable. They're your friends after all. And if that's not enough, I would say go to tech meetups, because you're probably, I cannot guarantee you're going to find someone, but you're more exposed to people, so more exposed to finding someone who will want to be your mentor, or finding someone who's going to find your mentor. So it's all about exposure in that sense. And I also, while being in Klarna, I wanted a mentor for security, but I wanted a mentor from an engineer who's in security. And again, my strategy was opening up to my manager. I told them, like, I don't want to just be an engineer, nothing wrong about that, but that's not what I want to do. I want to go also into security. By opening up and saying that all the time, then my manager was starting to connect me with people who are interested in what who are doing what I want to do. And at some point, I remember seeing a presentation, and there was this engineer who, after 2 months, I realized she was also French like me, so we started speaking French. But she was my dream person. That's exactly what I wanted to be. This engineer who helps every other team to secure their application. She knows so much. I was starstruck. And it took me a month to take the courage to just contact her and say, oh my God, I saw your presentation. You're amazing. Can you be my mentor? She was really busy. She took 4 days to answer. And I was like, oh, she hates me. Like, why would she help someone like me? Like, I was feeling so bad. And after 4 days, she's just like, I'm sorry, I forgot to answer you. I would love to be your mentor. And then we had our first session the following week. And she's still mentoring me. And yeah, so open up, share, ask. Even if it's if you get starstruck like me, just take the courage to ask. The worst that can happen is the person saying, sorry, I cannot. And it's okay. Move on to the next person and you ask, and eventually you will find someone.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question for Philip. Okay, so I mean, data science is such a big field and actually consists of many sub-fields, kind of. And apart from the arrogant point of view that you need a mathematics master's, kind of, what would you recommend, like, which kind of tool sets or which parts of data science are really important to know, like really basic? For example, I don't know, softwares or tools you're working with. Do you have some recommendations for it?
My programming language is clearly Python. And tools, data science. Well, to come through the job interview, you really have to know how to write some machine learning and training and test and split and all that stuff. In practice, that's a small part. I mean, with Python, you just import this scikit-learn library probably, and then it's 2 or 3 lines of codes. Important things is to just to practice and to see what data are really data you can to use, what are clean data, and practice and get some sense about it, and then see which algorithm fits which data. It's also a lot of practice when you don't have the mathematician background. Now then you just have one step ahead, but with practice you can make it totally. Oh, and tell a story to the other people that the data science project is really important, and they really give you the data, because what I faced in my career was we convinced the management that data science is cool because everyone's doing it, and some machine learning, but then we want to have the data from some other department, and they were like, yeah, I don't know how to give the data. Here you have an Excel with 100 data rows. And I'm like, so, well, okay. So in the end, the specific project we had in mind, it died because we couldn't convince them that we can help them with the project in the end, because they just feared that they have to come out of the structure they were already in, and they're doing it for years now. And I'm still convinced that we would help them, but well, it's sometimes the politics within a company then.
Cool.
My question goes to all of you, but maybe Philip. Getting out of like a traditional university, of course. In school, you have like a lot to study. You have different programming languages, different things to focus on, and in that sense, you don't fully give your attention to one specific thing. And getting out of university, you become so overwhelmed because you don't exactly know where you want to go or what you exactly want to do. And then you get to find out that there's like a whole bunch of spheres, some that you haven't even heard about in your entire years in the university. And that sometimes becomes so scary, and you become literally confused. So, like, what would you advise to someone in such a situation?
Well, yeah. So when I finished university, I just knew I want to do something with data, and I looked at all the jobs you can do, and then there was like, okay, what's Hadoop, what's Sparkle, what's cloud, whatever, and I still amazed by it and don't know everything of it. So somehow I made my way by showing what I learned in university, I'm also interested in the other stuff, but then I showed them what I really learned, what I can do, and applied for a lot of jobs which sounds interesting, and let the rest of the work for the recruiter to see if it's a fit with the stuff I learned. And well, then I ended up as a mathematician in insurance. But yeah, so you become overwhelmed, and I hope no recruiter expects that you know every one of these 50 requirements for a junior position. It's just, well, a lot of time you will learn it during your job. Are you interested in learning it? That's how I see a lot of the job descriptions. And maybe you read one or two sentences about it to make sure. I want to know what cloud is. I don't know what data science is, what AI is, and to impress with two sentences in the interview, and to know it for yourself. So, yeah. Nothing to add, Arthur?
More questions? Yes?
My question is, are there any industry or business or products in Berlin markets you think like have higher potentials or like drawing your attentions that maybe you want to work on in the future?
I mean, I think anything related to finance, they will always need someone, and they usually have the money because it's finance. So in a sense, it's kind of safe on that side, and that's also why I kind of feel safe at Klarna, because it's a bank, so it's finance. So it's kind of like, I see it as a safe industry that will anyway hire or maintain the number of engineer that they have. Now that's definitely not my dream industry. I'm more drawn to education. I like my dream company always been Babbel, because I just really like what they're doing from even when they were a beta version. I remember when it was still free. I was there. I had my account, so that was always my dream. But then I got into Klarna before, and I'm really happy also working there, because I also realized that I'd rather be in a company that gives me a nice environment than I said that weirdly. My priority is a work environment that makes me happy, and Klarna is giving me that, so I'm not planning on moving to my dream industry yet.
Well, yeah, I agree with you that the finance industry, especially also in Berlin, is a thing. I mean, insurance/finance is a lot of times put together. But I mean, as a software engineer, you can work everywhere. Every field needs software engineers, and also as a data scientist. So for me, it's not a big difference if the data are labeled as I don't know, claims in insurance, or if they're labeled as something more exciting. So as long as they're not labeled as some defense stuff, but that's my personal point of view. So
Yeah, I'm not an expert either, but yeah, finance for sure. And I would say maybe in Berlin in particular, fashion industry with focus on sustainability. This could be like, I don't know, platforms like Zalando or similar e-commerce platforms. I think they would have a lot of space to grow still, and that could be the future, I think.
One last question, if any. Last chance. Yes.
In terms of this boot camp, so how do you design the curriculum in terms of tech stack, or how, I mean, like how the market research is being done for specific, for example, let's consider front end. So HTML, CSS, Node.js, JavaScript, and those kind of stuffs are already there. I mean, that is being taught, but the thing is like there are so many, in terms of JavaScript, there are like React, Angular, and there are so many tech stacks which has been distributed across. So in terms of the curriculum of the bootcamp, so what is the actual, I mean, like how it has been designed and how the market research has been done. And like, for example, in that's, I just said regarding the front end, and when it comes to data science, yeah, there are Python, R, and there's a lot of different market tools. So in terms of the curriculum, like for example, a candidate who wants to do the bootcamp, so they want to be in a position so that like, okay, so in the market industry, so this is booming at the moment. Or for example, like in another 5 years, this is actually going to be in a boom. So how that market research has been done and the curriculum has been designed.
I think that question is more, yeah, I think that was more for me. So there are two parts. I actually don't need this mic because I have this one. So there's actually, in my experience, two parts to that, building the curriculum that is needed in the proper moment. And one part is what we were having also in the morning, like the part of the research, the user research, and also like proper interviewing with the actual needers of those technologies, which are the companies. So there are studies also done by these big study companies or poll companies that already have that data available. But there are also schools actually approach companies asking what's going on, what are they using, what are the technologies that they are using, and what would be, in terms of a junior level position, the minimum requires they expect from a candidate, which might be completely different than what they expect from somebody at the mid-level or senior level. But we focus as a school on those, like the minimum requires to like enter a junior level position. Then there's the other side of research that can be done, that is more done actually using technologies like data scraping, for instance. In my previous company, this was done basically scraping data from LinkedIn. Just one platform, but also with Glassdoor and all these companies, and just scraping data from thousands of companies in the markets that you want to focus, and actually getting the data of which technologies are they announcing in the job descriptions that they are needing. So this is also adding a lot of information on how to build and which technologies to focus on while building a curriculum for a program that is super high intensity like a bootcamp. So these are the two sides of it. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we made it. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for those watching this in the future. Thanks for tuning in because this is being recorded as well. So thank you everybody also here in person. We are Code Labs Academy. Check us out, our courses, and tune in also for more events like this and meetups in person but also online. And thank you again also for our awesome panel and presenters today. Thank you so much, Philip, Chino, and Pauline. All right. Thank you so much. All right.